Good morning, YouTube. I know a lot of you looked at the title of this video and thought, no, this is crap, it's clickbait. Well, it's actually true. My Ferrari has been more reliable than my Corvette.
Can't stop, won't stop. I can't stop, won't stop. I can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
For those of you new to my channel, my name is Dan. This is my garage, and we do a lot of DIY work on our cars, including the Ferrari and Corvette and some other cool cars. A lot of my buddies' Ferraris and things like that. If that sort of thing interests you, please like, share, and subscribe. I do appreciate when you guys do it. It helps out my channel, so thank you very much. So I know immediately a bunch of you are like, this is crap, and there's no way, it's not true, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah, right.
many of you are going to say, well, it's got to be something about, like, you abused the Corvette or something like that. And actually, it's kind of crazy, but I've owned this car for just under a year, and I've put about 17,000 miles on the 458 in that period of time. And during that period of time, I put the car on the track multiple times, so I haven't exactly been soft on this car. It's gotten driven very hard a lot. I know a lot of you that have been watching for a while know that this was one of my rental cars. So you're thinking, oh, well, the renters abused the car and so on and so on. But actually, I don't think they were that hard on it because my tires actually lasted quite a while. So yes, they're going to spin the tires and things like that. But yeah, that really hasn't seemed to have been affecting the car much. The Corvette's been super solid, as have the 458. So neither of the cars have really had that many problems. So you're probably thinking, oh, like, what is it? It's something stupid or whatever. And actually, it is. Both cars are so solid that any sort of thing that's gone wrong with the cars has been kind of minor, stupid, little silly things. So let's go over everything that's gone wrong with the Ferrari first, and then we'll talk about what's gone wrong with the Corvette. So during the 17,000 miles I've had this car, I've obviously had to do a couple oil changes. In fact, it's already on its third oil change. I'm already on its second set of tires. Other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of maintenance to deal with the car. I haven't had to change the brakes yet. These carbon ceramics last a very long time. The pads do last quite a while. I haven't even had it a year, so I haven't had to change the coolant. In fact, you're not really supposed to change the coolant like you are in the older ones as often as you are. So there's not that much to do maintenance-wise. So what has gone wrong with the car? Well, the first thing is when I bought the car, there was some weird headlight issue. I still have not been able to resolve that problem yet, so that is still going on. It's something to do with the way the headlights actually rotate or adjust as the car turns corners and stuff. So my headlights are just stationary at the moment. They're not turning or anything like that. The other thing that's gone wrong is that the headliner in the roof of the car started to sag and lose its grip. So it needed to be removed, have new adhesive applied to it, and then put back up. And then the final thing that's kind of going wrong with the car is my dashboard has some leather that's starting to stretch, which is super common with these Ferraris. Not a big deal, but again, something that happens with time. And of course, the Texas heat just kind of kicks the crap out of these cars. So the Corvette I've owned for just a little bit over a year. We've put a little over 10,000 miles on the car. It's on its second oil change, and it will be on its second set of tires. So again, the maintenance has been pretty similar as far as the total amount of maintenance based on the miles. If we extrapolated this car gain to about 17,000 miles, my suspicion would be that we would need another set of tires and another oil change. So about the same maintenance really, although we'll talk about the cost in just a second and we'll see that the cost of the maintenance on this is more. This car has kind of the same thing going on with some of the leather. You can see that it's starting to stretch a little bit. So both cars seem to have a little bit of leather stretching problem. Again, not a big deal. We did have a destroyed roof, but that I'm not including that in this discussion because that was obviously an accident, not maintenance. So what is the maintenance thing that's happened on this car that didn't go wrong with this car? Well, it had a sticky clutch. I think it's actually got a clutch fluid leak because when I checked the clutch fluid, there was almost none left in the reservoirs. All I had to do was add some more, flush it a little bit. Eventually, I'll probably have to make sure it's not leaking at all. But so far, it's been super reliable, never had any sort of other issues. That's basically it. So effectively, that means that both cars have had almost no real problems. I mean, nothing substantial. They've all been minor problems, kind of stupid, silly little things. And it kind of goes to show you that modern cars, modern Ferraris especially, aren't the way that they used to be. I know there's this big myth that all Ferraris are super unreliable and all this stuff. And I actually think it's mostly a function of how much they get driven. If you don't drive the cars, they tend to sit and rot, and all the rubber degrades and dries out, and gaskets dry out and things like that, and then stuff starts to go wrong. But with these Corvettes and with these Ferraris, they're all built so well and designed so well. The engineering is excellent. They're using great materials. They just don't seem to have the problems like they used to. So we're talking about tiddlywink little stupid things that can all be fixed for very cheap amounts of money. And also that means that really the only big differences between the two cars has been the initial cost and the maintenance and the insurance. So those things do have a bit of a divergence when you talk about the two different cars. So one of the big differences is just simply the oil capacity of the 458. So this holds 10 quarts of oil versus this car only has 6.5 because it does not have the dry sump system. So if I had one of the higher end model Corvettes that had a dry sump, those hold more oil, and actually the oil changes would have cost much closer to the same price. The only difference then would have been what oil I'm choosing to use, which I probably would have used the same oil, so that's going to be negligible. It'd be the total amount of oil difference, which I think is almost nothing on the dry sump versions of the Corvette. And then it comes down to the oil filter, which yes, the oil filter for this is a little bit more expensive, usually about $50 versus these you can get for under $20. So you're not talking about any sort of substantial difference in cost for oil changes on the two cars if you're doing it yourself. Obviously, if you take the cars to a dealership, there's going to be a pretty substantial Ferrari tax on the Ferrari versus the Chevrolet is going to have just about anywhere you can take it to is going to be able to do it and do it for pretty cheap. So tires would be the next thing, and honestly, again, this is going to come down to what tires you're choosing. You could obviously run the same tires on either car, same brand of tires, same spec, that's going to have the same wear rating, but the Corvette has smaller wheels, so that means that generally the tires are slightly cheaper. They're also not as wide. So ultimately, the Corvette's tires are going to be cheaper than they are for the Ferrari. I've spent about $3,200 on tires on this car in the last year versus I've only had to spend about $1,200 on tires on this car. And again, that's because I changed the tires on this twice and only once on this car. So what that really suggests is ultimately the maintenance costs for these two cars, if you're doing it yourself, is almost the same, or certainly it's not much of a difference. It's really going to come down to your choices and how you do it and what parts you're choosing to use. Tires is probably going to be the biggest single factor that's going to be a difference between the two cars, but that's kind of about it. So then let's talk about the insurance costs. Well, unfortunately, the insurance on the Ferrari is significantly more than it is for the Corvette. So the Ferrari costs about $2,700 to insure for me, versus the Corvette only costs about $1,250. So that means the Corvette is less than half the price of the Ferrari to insure, but it's also about 3 times less or 4 times less the cost initially when I bought the cars. So the difference in insurance is not linear to the total price difference of the two cars, so it actually is a little bit more effective to insure this car than it is for the Corvette. So for all those Corvette people that always like to say how their Corvette is just as cheap or it's super cheap to maintain and it's cheaper than my Ferrari and blah blah blah, the reality is it's not that much cheaper. I mean, yes, it is going to be cheaper ultimately, short of something catastrophic. I mean, here's the big thing is neither of the cars had any sort of catastrophic failures. I don't expect that either of them would. They're, again, built so well, engineered so well that that sort of stuff just doesn't really happen with the modern Ferraris and the modern Corvettes versus the older stuff that may be more likely. So for those of you that were scared about buying a Ferrari because they think the maintenance and all that sort of stuff is so crazy more expensive than a Corvette, well, it isn't. It really isn't. They're pretty reliable. Obviously, if they're as reliable as a Corvette, I don't think you really have to worry about them as much as you would think. Everyone kind of considers this to be a bulletproof car. So if that's bulletproof and this is basically the same, well, I guess that kind of suggests that this is bulletproof too, which I know that's kind of a strange statement to say that a Ferrari is bulletproof, but I actually kind of do feel that way. The 458 is a pretty damn solid car. So I'm sure a bunch of the keyboard warriors are about to mash the keyboard and tell me all the 10,000 reasons why I'm wrong.
All right, thumbs up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Please go ahead and share your opinions. I try my best to respond to everyone's comments that aren't complete trolls or completely stupid. If you're going to just sit here and insult me, well, just go away. That's not helpful. But if you want to present some logical, reasonable arguments, we can have discussion. I actually do find that kind of interesting. And a lot of times people do have some really good points that I didn't think about. Please feel free to comment below. I'll try and read it and comment back. If you guys are interested in winning that clock, yes, that cool clock right there on my wall, you guys have a chance to win it once I hit 50,000 subscribers. All you have to do to enter to win is subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure to share my videos, and go to my website, normalguysupercar.com, sign up for my email list, or go buy some of my merch. If you do either of those two things, you're automatically entered for a chance to win as soon as I hit 50,000 subscribers, which should be pretty soon. Yeah, that clock's pretty badass. You know you guys want it. So again, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate when you guys can like, share, and subscribe. That does help on my channel, so Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You guys are amazing. We're going to be doing a lot of car stuff. You guys are going to stay tuned. It's going to be sweet.